Mr. Beard, are they still considering to do the next month in person or back at the township, or are we going to continue with the Zoom?
I am not sure at this time. We haven't been directed one way or another yet.
Well, with Franklin County going up to the purple level, it's got some people nervous.
Yeah. Yep. I think the governor's freaking out too.
All right, we are good to go. If you want to,
yes, sir.
Start.
If you would like to call the meeting to order for Thursday, April 15th, 2021. Mr. Beard, if you call roll, please.
Mr. Shipley.
Yes.
Mr. Oster.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Travis.
Yes.
Ms. Sundar. All right, we have a quorum.
Okay. We'd like to start in with swearing in of witnesses. Anyone who attends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you will give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State, I do. And when it's your turn, offer testimony. Please state your full name, address, and affirm that you've been sworn in. Also, anyone who intends to offer comments or testimony through the online chat room function on Facebook or FaceTime, you also need to be sworn in remotely. Before your initial comment, please type in your name, address, and words affirm to indicate that you solemnly swear that the testimony you're offering is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We'd like to start with conditional use CU 2101. Mr. Beard.
All right, we'll go over the staff report. The applicant owner is Josh Morgan. The site is 7144 Xander Way. Parcel ID number of 318-133-18007-000. Zone single family plan residential district. Seeking a conditional use from the Orange Township zoning resolution, Article 10, Section 10.04B, to allow for the construction of a model home in an area zone single family plan residential district. The subject property is located on the west side of Xander Way. It's owned by Joshua Morgan. They're seeking the conditional use for the model home. The surrounding areas, north, south, and east, are all single family planned residential district. And to the west is farm residential district. To the north is Enclave Abbey Knoll. South and east are Abbey Knoll. To the west is single family houses along with South Old State.
I'd like to correct that conditional use application number because I believe he gave the wrong one. It's CU-21-02.
Isn't that what I said?
You said 01.
My apologies.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct that before we got too far.
Thank you.
You have a zoomed out aerial. And you also have a zoomed in aerial of the site. And they are still complying with the standards in the code from section 10.04B, the hours of operation. Their model home hours will be Monday through Friday, 12 to 9 and 8 during winter, and Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 6. The lighting, exterior lighting will be in character with those found in the surrounding homes, and only downlighting will be used. Off-street parking will be provided, will be shown on the exhibit. They have landscape drawings that are provided that include the required trash receptacles as shown in the exhibits. And the use of the model home will terminate when zoning certificates of compliance have been issued for 90% of the lots therein. This is a updated site plan since this is a continuation. This is the site plan that submitted showing the driveway that can have 2 parking spots, and then there'll be 4 parking spots on the east. Exhibit 2 is the landscape plan that shows a walkway between the parking lot over to the residence, and then a trash can along the walkway for the access. Exhibit 3 is
Mr. Beard?
Yep.
Would you back up to the last drawing again, please?
Yep.
Exhibit 2. You stated that it's going to parking for 2 spaces, but yet the drawing shows 3 to the right of where it says yard light on the 30-foot area. It's marked as 3 spots.
I believe we looked at that in our guidelines, and you are only allowed to claim 2 for the driveway.
Yeah, you can claim 2. It doesn't say you can't have, it just said you can only use 2 of those
Right.
for the 6, right?
You can only, yeah, for the 6,
Right.
you can only
Right.
use 2.
Yeah. So, and he's got 4 off to the side there, so that comes up to, if he
Right.
counts that as
So
2,
that
then there's
comes up to the
6.
6.
Right,
We determined that last meeting.
right,
Right. So they are allowed to have 7 spots.
right.
So technically
Yeah,
they'll have 7. So
Right,
they
technically.
could with the 2 in the parking in the driveway and 4 on the other one,
Right.
as this is a 3-car garage. So
Correct. I just want clarification with that because we do know that it is going to be a 3-car garage. And to me, that driveway is considered a 3-car driveway.
Right. Well, yeah, we went all through that last time.
Okay, just want to be sure that we're all on the same thing.
yeah, and that driveway is 10 feet wider than most driveways in the township. Compared to houses across the street, and the Abbey Knoll, those driveways, most of those are 20 feet wide. This is 30 feet wide, so that's why it has the 3rd car.
And the concern of us for that the only part of that concerns us is having using 2 of those in conjunction with the 4 off to the side to make the 6.
Right.
Yeah.
In other words,
Gotcha.
they couldn't use 3 in the driveway and only put 3 in the
Right.
next lot.
Right.
That's right.
I think Jerry just forgot that.
Then they provided an exhibit of lights that are the landscaping lights. That'll be shown onto the parking lot as stated in the text. And then they have an exhibit of the sign that they'll use, which is just an A-frame sign that we'll put out when they're there, and then they'll put it inside when the model home is closed.
Is that a downlighting light? Kind of looks like it.
It doesn't look like it to me.
It has a shield on it,
But it can be adjusted.
and it can be adjusted. And they did state that it will be downlighting. They're just showing
I saw
an
that.
example of what the light would look like, not necessarily how it's going to be
Right.
placed. But they did state that it will be downlighting, and it is a landscape lighting.
Please.
Would
Say
you
it again?
would you state your name and address, please? Ma'am?
I don't think she was talking to us, Jerry. I think she was talking to somebody in the background.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Beard, if you want to continue.
And and then there's a site photo that shows the house under construction. It shows the 3-car garage. And that is all I have. The owner is on here, and the consultant for the owner is on here also. I don't know if they wish to speak or if you have questions for them, but they are on the call.
Would the representatives from Mr. Morgan, please state your name if you have something to say, testimony, and address.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
This is Courtney Wade at 3 Levering Drive, Fredericktown, Ohio, 43019. And I'm the consultant, working with Josh to help with this application. And I did want to point out the comment about the light. And yes, those are adjustable. We chose those specifically. That way, if there's any issues, once they're installed, if there's any zoning issues or whatever, we could adjust those to meet any standards or any concerns that there are with that. So that picture does show it's pointing up. I think that was shining on a flag, which obviously ours will not, but to address that concern. And if you have any other questions, I'm here to ask, but I think that most everything was covered.
Courtney, the concern is that it openly states a 270-degree adjustable head. And I don't mean to sound mean-spirited, so please don't take it that way. But you could potentially be in violation of zoning if the zoning inspector does come out and they are pointed upward. We just want to alert you of that.
Certainly. And that isn't our intention. We have every intention of having them downward as our application states. But if there was ever any concern, we would be able to tilt them even further down.
Good.
I wasn't clear of where exactly it was going to be placed for direction and what is it going to be shining on. I know the little plot kind of shows it's all the way over by the lot line, but maybe you can answer this question.
Well, they're landscaping lights. You asked for downward lighting, and so those are located in the thank you into the landscaping and for the parking lot area.
Will they also be used around the house, the model home?
We don't have them on there. I mean, if you're wanting those around the home, we can add them, but we have no intentions of doing that. And we were just trying to meet your regulations as the parking lot area.
So the home itself doesn't have any landscaping lighting?
Correct.
Okay, that was my question.
Sure.
Those lights are only used when during open hours of the model home also, right?
Yes, it would meet your standards of what your lighting was
Right.
and to be turned off. Yes.
Gotcha.
So those are just going to be like totally around the parking lot and the apron there or whatever, just after the sidewalk.
Am I able to interject here, guys?
Sure.
Yeah. And please state your name and address.
Yep, Josh Morgan, 1739 Township Road 166, Marengo, Ohio 43334. Just in regards to the question on the lighting, it will definitely not be used except for during model open hours. We won't have it on any other time.
Right. I think you said that in the text. I did see that. When the model home closed, everything would go down.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board?
I don't have any questions.
I had a question as far as the walkway that's at the corner, actually on Abbey Knoll that intersects both of these corners, and this residence is on the corner. Are those going to be completed and finished so that they can be used and people don't have to go into the street? And your corner will be operable?
Is this in regards to the model or just like overall?
Well, since the model incorporates one corner and overall the walkway path, really hasn't been connected or usable without going into the street.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be completed?
Oh yeah, it will be. I guess for me right now.
I mean, as far as when this model starts up, will that be completed?
It should be. I can't speak. I mean, Decker Construction is my contractor doing the bike path. They are still, as of now, as of last week, they're not even up and running on the asphalt yet, is what they told me. So he said, I am in line to get it done because it obviously was a holdover from last year. They ran out of time. It actually did with water sitting in the bike path, the multi-use path on the west
Yeah.
side of the property. They weren't able to do anything, so they didn't obviously come to do just the patch. They want to do all at
Well,
one time.
and that's not the path I'm concerned with. It's the one that runs down Abbey Knoll that intersects both of these corners.
Right, I understand that, but yeah, so they're not, they'll do it
Okay.
all at one time.
Well, in this work here, you know, a lot of that I think is going to be concrete. And then it's just going to tie into the blacktop pad. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I figured, you know.
The concrete will definitely be finished before.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, with the handicap regulations and the kids and their bicycles and all that stuff, at the present time, it's really a hazard because they have to go into the street. And the street is awful fast. You know, everybody flies up and down the street. And I was just wondering if those corners were going to be finished, you know, in time for the opening of the model, just in case somebody else actually parks on the street and walks down the sidewalk to the model.
Sure. I would say with 95% certainty, it would be finished. Obviously, weather's going to play a factor in, and me being, you know, not in my homes or Pulte homes, I get kind of pushed to the back of the burner on Decker's, you know,
Well,
top
don't
of.
quit doing that.
I wish it doesn't work that way. I wish it did. But yeah, so I mean, as far as, you know, I don't know if you guys seen it today, but we had the dozer guys out there actually doing the touch upgrades today. So I'm with full anticipation by the end of May, which will be before the models actually open, that we'll have the multi-use path, all the site work complete and seed and mulch and everything else. So we should be complete with everything on the surrounding properties and the multi-use path and the sidewalks as well.
Any other comments or anything from the Facebook Live chat room?
Nothing in the chat room.
Okay, based on the applicant's statements in regard to the walkway, the change of the parking and the updated drawings, I'll make a motion to approve CU 21-02.
I'll second it.
Feedback.
All right. I have a motion made by Mr. Miller to approve conditional use case CU-21-02 based on the factors. Seconded by Mr. Treves. Those voting, Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good luck, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, next case, VA 2104. Mr. Beard?
All right, next case is variance case VA-21-04. The applicant and owner is Cheryl and Donald Everett. The site is 5255 Loudon Drive. Parcel ID number of 318-220-12-015-000. Zone single family plan residential district. They're requesting an area variance from rezoning case 13-0302 North Farms to allow for the construction of a fiberglass pool with a retractable safety cover system that will encroach in the rear yard setback and to allow a fence lower than 5 feet. The description, their subject property is located on the southeastern side of Loudon Drive. Once again, they're requesting a area variance from the rear yard setback, and also an area variance from a fence requirement of 5 feet. The surrounding areas, north, south, east, and west are all, well, north, south, east, and west are all zoned single-family plan residential district. There is also an area like in the southeast corner that is zoned farm residential district, but they are all single-family homes. You have a zoomed out aerial, and then a zoomed in aerial of the site. For the staff review, variance request number 1 is the pool setback. Area variance from rezoning case 13-0302 North Farms. The rear yard requirement is 35 feet. The pool will encroach 16 feet and 4 inches into the rear yard setback. The applicant is requesting a 16 feet and 4 inches variance to encroach in the setback. This would be roughly a 46% request. Exhibit 1 is the site plan showing the proposed variance setbacks. Exhibit 2 is the neighbor's rear yard difference with their lot being cut out there. This shows the difference. The blue line is the difference from the edge of their property to what would be the edge of the neighbor's property. Exhibit 3 is signatures of support from neighboring properties. And then here's a site photo from Google satellite that shows the property. And then I have site photos. We'll go over, I guess we'll go over the second request also, and then we'll make decisions one request at a time. So the variance request number 2 is this fence site. Area variance from Orange Township Resolution Section 21.05, water impoundment. All water impoundments such as ponds, lakes, or swimming pools shall be constructed and developed in compliance with the following standards. Letter C is all swimming pools where the property upon which such swimming pools are located shall be walled or fenced to fully enclose the swimming pool and prevent uncontrolled access to the swimming pool. Said wall or fence shall not be less than 5 feet in height. It may include the wall of a building or other structure. Shall be of such construction as to not allow uncontrolled access under or through the wall or fence, and shall be maintained in good condition with all entry or access points having functioning locks. The applicant has an already constructed fence that was HOA approved in 2018 at the height of 4 feet that is surrounding the property's rear yard. The HOA maximum height for a fence is 4 feet normally. The applicant is requesting a 1 foot variance to allow the already constructed fence to remain. This would be roughly a 20% request. Exhibit 1 is the example of the fence type. Exhibit 2 are deed restrictions from the HOA regarding the fencing. Deed 3 is just continuation of that, as there's some more restrictions. The next exhibit is the proposed screening for around the property, around the pool. Then I have site photos. I emailed these out earlier today. These are site photos of the property. This is looking from the front of the property to the rear and shows what the fence currently looks like that is already installed. This is from the front looking back. This is looking towards North Road. The cone is the placement of where the edge of the pool will be compared to the property line. This is from the, I guess, east, looking west. And this is looking from the house south towards North Road. This is looking from the south, looking kind of north towards the house. This is from the opposite side of the property, looking towards also North Road, is that direction. It shows the setback. And that is all I have. The applicant is on here.
Hi, would you state your name and address, please, and affirm that you have been sworn in?
Hi, my name is Cheryl Everett. I'm at 5255 Loudon Drive. That is in Lewis Center, Ohio, 43035, and I affirm.
I have a couple of questions to start with, ma'am. The photos that you show with the arborvitaes,
Yes, sir.
what size arborvitaes do you plan on putting in?
I plan to start the landscaping company that I've been working with. They start 6 to 8 feet. It's kind of hard to put one single measurement in. But the goal would be to be of at least 8 feet. And that would be in the entire surrounding area of the concrete apron. As you can see, there is an area up against my house that has the small deck that will be a full deck with the construction of the pool. So the area in kind of that L shape, that is going to be a deck. So I believe the area from ground to the bottom part of the deck is about 2 to 3 feet from my patio door. And then there will be railing across the entire deck to kind of fence off that front area.
Okay.
And
So
then
this is an
construction
in-ground
around.
fiberglass? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you want
I'm
to
sorry.
restate?
Is this an in-ground fiberglass or is this an above ground?
It is in ground, yes.
Okay, so it's in-ground just in conjunction with the deck.
Correct. The deck will be a separate part of my project. Yes.
The other question, or one of the other questions I have is in regards to the HOA approval in 2018 with your deed restrictions at 4 foot. You have neighbors that have are agreements in support of you, but there's nothing from the HOA. Have you filed with the HOA?
I kind of had some questions on that too, Jerry. In the past, I was thinking that our requirements that usually happen are a minimum of a 5-foot fence that's generally directly around the pool, not around the whole yard.
Correct. Yeah.
And-
So I do have the HOA approval. If that paperwork was not provided, I do have that paperwork readily available. I received that about 2 months ago when I decided to move forward with the variance. I got their approval initially and then went and spoke to the neighbors. When we moved into our property, actually, I just kind of want to back up a little bit and maybe talk
Okay, go ahead.
kind of about the start of this process. So we moved in 2018. Our neighbors that are directly next door to us already had the exact same fence put in. So looking at my property to the left, that entire side was already constructed, the 4-foot shadow box fence. So to stay consistent with what they put in, we decided to go ahead and put the same fence in. I understand that there is a 5-foot fence minimum, but given the fact that we had the hardship on our property of our neighbors already having their fence in, I wanted to propose putting the deck in and then putting the landscaping in and having that retractable safety cover that requires, it's a password opening and close, would hopefully help compensate for that hardship that we had. Also coming into the property, obviously our neighbors had a lot larger of a property line. So that build line, when we first came into the area, my husband, who works for Chase Bank, he does IT. We've been very fortunate that he's been able to work from home in the last year. I have two smaller kids. They are in the Olentangy School District. They little water bugs. We've been in swim class for quite some time. We've talked with all of our neighbors that do have smaller children. They have all actually been doing swim classes as well. Water safety, anybody that knows me, is probably one of my biggest concerns as a mother. I've been an ICU nurse now for a little over 10 years. I've actually been at Ohio State, and not gonna lie, last year's been very hard with COVID and just the stress of all of that. Just really looking forward to some family time at home, and getting this pool moving forward, I think would just be of utmost value to not just, our mental health, just emotional. Our neighbors are so wonderful and have been so supportive of this project. We sat down with them multiple times. I mean, I've been working through this variance and the project with the pool company for months and months and months now, just making sure that I'm really taking into consideration our neighbors and my family. We have floodlights that are installed above our master bedroom looking down. As far as lighting, we plan to place locks on the 2 entryways of that shadow box fence. We have security cameras for the backyard. Like I said, we're doing that retractable hardcover where you can drive a car on it and nothing would sink into it. That was something that was a must-have for me and my family as far as safety concerns. So it's more of just an aesthetic thing of wanting to do more of a landscaping since we already had the fence in place. We knew the HOA allowed in-ground pools when we moved into the neighborhood, but at the time, since we weren't moving forward with the project yet, we could not get that 5-foot fence. So that's just kind of the background on why I am requesting the fence variance. And then, like I said, talking with the neighbors and stuff, I feel like I have a lot of support with kind of my ideas.
So you're asking for a fence variance because the HOA will not allow a 5-foot fence?
They did not allow it when we initially, so we have a couple of dogs. So when we first put in the fence, we weren't allowed to go larger than 4 feet because we didn't have a pool. Being a new construction house, we weren't able to install.
But would they now? Will they now? Will they now?
That would be
Allow a
something I
5-foot.
would have to put an additional request into them, and then it would be adding, I don't know how it would work around the deck, but it would be adding.
Yeah, I don't think you kind of followed, from the ones that I've seen before, the 5-foot minimum fence that locks was generally right around the pool, not around the whole yard.
Right.
So, and that is usually just, like a barred type fence that's 5 foot tall, which I kind of figured Township had for liability purposes. And that could still be done with your fence staying at 4 foot where it's at. Instead of using your fence that goes around the yard as your 5-foot fence.
Rick, let me jump in here real quick.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Our code does not state that it has to be right around the pool. It just says it has to be, that it just has to
Right.
enclose.
It doesn't state that.
So we have to follow our code, what is written in our code, not what you assume, not what you are thinking that is best. So we gotta interpret what the code says. The code just says it has to be the fence around. It doesn't say it can't be around the property.
It doesn't say that
It does not
Yeah,
state
but-
that. It just says it has to enclose. It doesn't say it
doesn't.
has to be right around the pool or any set distance.
But it
from-
does state it has to be 5 foot.
5 foot is the only requirement that it had. It doesn't state what kind of fence it has to be either. It doesn't say
I
what-
realize that,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is a 5 foot fence could still be put around the pool, not utilizing the whole yard fence. I guess that's what I'm looking at, is they are wanting to trade off the 5 foot pool fence for their yard fence. Am I not assuming that?
Well, and I would like
correctly?
to substitute maybe as far as the 5 foot goes, when you originally asked about the arborvitaes, like a wall or other structure, which would be in, quote unquote, good condition, is why I would like to move forward. Not just saying 4 foot around my property, that's it. I want to incorporate like some landscaping in order to make it, not only would you have to, come into my property over a very privately shadow boxed fence, you would also have to bypass landscaping and the, hard cover. So I feel like in my mind, I've created even better safety. Could I put in another fence inside of a fence, inside of my landscaping, inside of all of that? Potentially. For aesthetic and cost wise, though, I am comfortable as long as, and the rest of my neighbors, that my ideas and what I want to do with the landscaping will be beyond sufficient to.
Well, that's all I was saying was, to meet the requirement of the 5 foot fence, a 5 foot fence could be installed around the pool, as stated.
Or around the property line.
Or, right, and that, this is in
Well,
addition
yeah,
to,
but she doesn't want to do that because of the cost of doing the whole yard at a
But
5
the,
foot.
Rick, the HOA could still deny it. They
Right.
do have it in their
Well-
deed saying that the government agency can request higher, but doesn't mean the HOA has to approve that.
she has
Right,
gone
That's
above.
true.
the
Well,
hard cover.
that's where I was confused. Did she have approval for a 5 foot pool fence from HOA if she builds a pool? Or no?
She has approval for a pool from the HOA as it stands in the application with the 4 foot fence around the
That
property.
that doesn't meet our code.
Right, but it meets the HOA code, and that they approved it
That,
as
yeah, but
requested.
the HOA is not us.
Right.
All right, let me
So
state
we're
in
not,
regards to not only to the fencing, but from a safety standpoint. And ma'am, I'm not going to say this to scare you. It is a fact. When I lived in New Orleans, there was two adults and their grandchildren, and they weren't paying attention. We dove in, myself and another guy dove into the lagoon and pulled a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and had to perform CPR, and we lost 2 of them.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and argue like my parenting style and like I'm a nurse. I know how to. I've done the same. I've jumped in. I've done that too. I'm aware of like the safety issues walking into this, which is why I feel like I have taken the things with putting the money into the retractable cover. And if I need to put the 5 foot fence in, fine, I'll do the 5 foot fence. But I haven't made that request yet because I was hoping that what I would present to you would be adequate. And I don't, want to get personal, but as a nurse, like I understand what it means to save lives, and I've been in the thick of it for a long time. And, like I said, water safety is aside from car safety is like my number one issue. And you ask anybody that knows me, like I'm a hawk. I go anywhere I go. I don't care, they want to put something in across the street that's going to have water. My first concern is, what are you doing to protect my children from the water? So I appreciate that so much. I love the concern for that. My kids are of utmost importance with all of this. And, there was hesitancy even requesting a pool period, whether I put a 5 foot fence in or not. I've watched neighbor kid, I have a play set in my backyard. we have kids that want to come over all the time. And there's a 9, 10, 11-year-old next door. They can't scale my fence. They can't get over it. And they're tall kids. So I think just having that, the privacy of the shadow box fence first and foremost is a huge safety factor. Nobody can go under it. Nobody can get through it. My dogs can't get under it. Like it's a big safety thing in my backyard is I have neighbor kids that can't get over it. Will I let them get over it? No. I mean, it's just,
Let me finish the statement, please. And I'm not saying this anything against your parenting styles. You're concerned over safety. I'm not saying anything negative of that. My point is, here you had, in my situation, 2 adults
Mhm.
that were not paying attention. The
Mhm.
kids fell in.
Right.
They drowned. With a 4-foot fence, the reason why there's a 5-foot fence limit is safety. And yes, you may have tall 10-year-olds today, but in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they're going to be 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. And once people know that there is a pool,
Mhm.
especially teenagers,
Mhm.
it goes back to, well, we can climb that fence.
Right.
The
Which is
situ-
why we're doing the retractable locked cover.
Ma'am, please let me finish, ma'am.
Apologies.
It's a safety issue, short-term, long-term. You may also get some dramatic increases in insurance costs because you're not at 5 foot and above level. Now granted, and I strongly appreciate the fact that you're gonna have a retractable cover that is lockable, because we've had other applicants come forward and it's been a very active discussion about the safety of rigid covers, et cetera. So the board as a whole, we are very familiar with that entire scenario and do appreciate where you're coming from. But there's a reason why their codes are the way they are of 5-foot minimum.
Is there anything about like the county requirements that would?
This is Orange Township, ma'am.
Right.
And-
Jerry, just so you know, the county has changed and the state building regulations have changed their codes. The county does, if they have the safety cover, the county does not require a fence.
Period. Not
That
even
is-
a 4-foot fence.
They
Delaware
don't
County
require,
does not. True.
they do not require any fence. And talking to some pool companies that have inquired here recently, there's not, most of the townships in our area do not require the fence. I believe Liberty Township does not require a fence as long as they have the approved safety cover that the county approves.
And Delaware
I know.
County said that they were okay with the 4-foot fence when I contacted them.
Yeah, Mr. Miller,
Well,
Mr. Shipley, the,
Jerry's give you
just
some-
real quick here, if you don't mind, the, and I know we kind of went to variance request number 2 when we're talking about the fence, but shouldn't we ought to get through variance request number 1 first?
Yes.
Well, it's all the same thing, but Jerry, I think,
Well-
gave you some good information there because there are insurance regulations that fall in here too. Because I know one time when we checked, they wanted a 10-foot fence. And, you know, and depending on where you are and what kind of liability that they're willing to insure, they have things that you have to meet too, which again might step on Orange Township or HOA, and you know, and nobody overrules anybody. So I just wanted to say, you know, what Jerry threw out there was good information. I don't know if you've checked with insurance yet to see what they require. But yeah, I think we ought to move on to the pool and its location and how much variance this is going to need because it's quite large.
I agree. And, you know, if you can't do one without the other. So,
Right.
you know, we need to take step A before we go to step B.
And I just kind of wanted to throw out, you know, that I've seen a lot of them where they put a fence right around the pool area, you know, to meet that 5-foot blockable safety deal. Not that anybody had to do it.
Jeff, could you go back to the diagram where the pool location is shown. Yeah, that one, thanks.
Is there a reason that this whole structure isn't tucked into the house?
Yeah, so,
Because it's like,
we want to
it's
go
like,
back
looks like
to,
it's 10 foot off of the house
correct.
rather
So-
than being shoved over and tucked up.
So, to address safety, again, it didn't necessarily make sense to step out my back door directly into a pool. I wanted to put a deck in place to create another safety measure. And looking at my property line, I do have quite a bit of a downhill trend in my land. So putting the concrete closer to the pool allowed, most of like a lounger or pool chair or something that you would put out by your pool is generally like 6 to 8 feet in length. So I wanted to make sure I allowed adequate areas walking around those chairs to keep anybody from falling into the pool, or just to keep those things up against the house more, and to not have to create more concrete near the back end of the house. So I talking with the pool company, it just made more sense to move it a little further away from the house for safety reasons. And if we're going to talk kind of some cost saving things, where the sun comes in and hits our house, it's very shaded close up to the house, so we are putting a heater on the pool, but just having it in sunlight longer provides longer usage of it. And it just kind of becomes less practical in my mind the closer you get to the house.
So the 10 foot is going to be concrete, not decking. That's on that side of the pool, that's closest
Correct.
to the house. So that's all going to be concrete.
Yes.
And that is, it looks to be about 10 foot of where you come out of your house there.
Yeah, so the remaining feet that will go up to the house will be a deck.
So you're gonna have 11 feet.
Oh, I see. So you're going to put a deck in between the concrete pool and the house?
That is the plan, yes.
So up next to the house, you're gonna have a 10-foot wide concrete area around, and then a decking between the house and that concrete. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. The back side of it, you're gonna have a 3-foot concrete around the pool.
Correct.
Did
And
you
you don't
ever,
have any plans on the deck?
I'm sorry, say that again.
There's no plans on the deck showing how it is going to go in here?
I have the plans ready to go. It literally goes to the line of my house, so that 28.9, where it ends, that L shape is the size of the deck. So it's going to be a 28.9 foot deck with a 10 foot, it'll be 10 foot wide, and the steps will go down to the concrete.
did you ever consider rotating it 90 degrees so that it would be rotated clockwise and then tucked back up so that you're,
I mean, just aesthetically, design wise in my mind, and I did not want to walk out my house directly down into a pool. I wanted some type of barrier for safety reasons where I can
well, you,
put some type of retractable door to close off the deck walking down into the pool.
you
I
could
don't think I've
still
ever
do
really
that.
seen a pool sit that way in a backyard.
Well, yeah, and you were talking about an L-shaped deck that's going to come across the back of the house and then back up the side of the house?
No, I'm sorry. The house is L-shaped, so it's just going to be a rectangular
Oh.
deck, 28.9 by 10.
Okay,
Yes.
I say it's just a
Okay,
rectangle
28
tucked in.
Okay,
Yes.
right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
there and
Yeah,
down and
because-
across.
Because that has to be approved too, correct?
By my HOA, correct.
Ma'am,
Mhm.
I don't mean to be premature, but you may request to have this tabled until you have your HOA approval.
I
Because you,
do have it.
ma'am,
I can
please.
email it right now. I had it in my paperwork that I sent. So I don't know why it's not visible to you guys, but I do have their approval.
We
The
have-
approvals for the pool, right?
Us-
Correct. I'm not moving forward with the deck yet. I have a design plan in mind. I have not applied to the HOA for the deck yet. Financially, we're waiting on the deck. I'm just moving forward with the pool right now.
Well, that explains why the pool isn't tucked up into the notch of the house there.
Any other discussions from the board or comments from the board?
Well, I'll make a comment because that variance is huge.
Huge. It's almost half of the setback. And the one side of the pool, I think, looks like it's almost totally in
Yeah,
the setback.
Yeah, I know it's a large request, has large value in me personally, not just because of the number. I was following a couple pools that did get approved off in Patient's Way. They had a very large variance request as well. They were not providing the retractable covers. I feel like I did make quite a good effort with the safety issues. As far as the county restrictions go, moving forward, I am very open to more discussion with the fence. I just think aesthetically, with the way my backyard sits, having that morning room off the back of my house does kind of push things a little further away. And, having the HOA approval, having multiple neighbors, multiple, I went door to door to door to door, and I'm very close friends with all of them. And them just be very, very supportive of the plans that I've put forward. I don't want to beg, but I really feel that moving forward, it's really going to add value to my family.
There's no doubt that, and this, Ms. Triplett, there's no doubt that that's a substantial request for the location variance. But as a reminder for the rest of us, that's one piece of the 7-piece puzzle that we're looking at.
yeah, but I've got other issues with some of those. And I had issues with some of the other ones that we've approved over the time.
One thing, ma'am, in your comment about other pools, et cetera, we have to take every case independently.
Sure.
There are multiple things that are different between one another, whether it be topography, whether it's HOA approval. And what's provided here, from what we can see, and this is what we have to go by, we don't see an HOA approval in here in the documents that have been provided. So again, we have to go by the facts that are presented to us.
I guess the piece that's pulled up right now, that is my HOA approval.
Yeah, but I'm not finding it in our paperwork. Oh, wait.
Right. I see paperwork from BOR, but
Yeah,
not-
it's in there, guys. It was in the loose stuff. It's not the same form.
no, it's not. And that's why I was
Just
questioning.
If, I don't know
Because
if you
this
can
pool
see
looks
it.
like it goes all the way back
That's,
to the
it's still
utility
from the
pole.
same place, but it's totally different.
Gerald, if you have that email, if your HOA email that too, if you just want to send that email, I can post it for them.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sharing the application that you submitted to the HOA. I just don't believe it was actual. I think the fence one was sent in with the physical copies, but not the
okay.
pool one. But this is the one that you applied for February 2nd of this year.
Yes, and if I can figure out, I'm sorry, I'm not the best at computers, just to.
See, the only thing we have from Bohr is for the 4-foot fence going
Yep.
back to September 20th, 2018.
Sure, I can share my screen. I will log in right now.
Jerry, I have the one up that she submitted February 2nd of 21 on
Yeah.
the screen right now.
Okay, I'd like to see that, but again, we have to go by what we're presented, and that's why we're asking questions.
Is there a second page? Or is it just one of one? It says one of 4 on
It's
top.
4 pages.
Okay. Okay, that's the page that you'd shown before. Okay. Jeff, could you scroll back up? Thank you.
Is this the same one that was from Landmark Survey Group? From June of 18? Could you scroll up a little bit higher, Jeff?
It's not Landmark Survey. This is
Yeah, so
This is-
I
February
what's-
2nd of 21.
To what was attached in the paperwork we received is a back.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one for the fence. The pool one was not part of the physical packet, and I did not realize that.
Okay. Not putting blame, just asking.
This was an email that I had received from her at one point in time. So
Okay.
this wasn't
Here I
included
have-
with the physical packets, and I overlooked that when I reviewed it.
So, sorry, I'm gonna like pick up my computer here and show you, I have it pulled up on my other screen here, that your request to install a pool has been approved, and it's your team at Borough Properties. And here's my street address, and my husband's name is Donald.
And that was dated when, ma'am?
This was dated, the approval, March 3rd, 2021.
Yeah, you'll need to send that to Jeff anyway.
Yeah, I will
For
send
the
it.
record.
Mr. Jones, you said you had some other comments?
well, it's just on our 7 conditions, and
Mhm.
it,
Ma'am, are you aware of the 7 items that we are
If
challenged?
Jeff.
you'd like to share them with me, I will.
yeah, Jeff's got them on the screen now.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes. Yeah, when I move forward with the application, I do believe I did address these. I will gladly go over each of them if you would like me to.
Ma'am, you can, but we have to determine on each of the 7.
Okay,
And your view may be different than ours, or it may be exact
okay.
with ours. Like number 5, when you purchased the property, you were aware of all the restrictions.
I knew that the HOA allowed for in-ground pools. I was uneducated about the 35-foot build line that existed. And seeing how much larger my neighbor's property was, I do consider that a hardship on my property.
But it was knowable at the time you purchased it.
I was uneducated on the fact that it existed and I would have to put this type of request in.
Well, okay. Let's see. Number 6, can the problem be solved by some manner other than granting the variance? It's my opinion that repositioning the pool might get you with a much less variance, if not complete
Yeah,
out of it.
much less.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, 'cause, you know,
designing
10
the
foot right there.
property, we positioned it in multiple ways on the house. We did that when we were designing the pool with this company.
Using the 10 foot before the pool instead
Correct.
of the
Yes.
deck would gain you 10 foot there.
It would also, in my
Back
opinion,
out of that variance.
10 feet of safety from my house, though, is kind of, I guess, how I looked at it.
Ma'am, I don't mean to be rude, but if the board is asking questions and making a statement, please let's not talk over each other. Other questions or comments from the board? Or with the 7 items?
No, I went through them all, Mr. Miller. I understand the, you know, I have a pool, not that it matters, but, you know, and I understand having a distance between our slider walking out to the pool and, you know, having room between the house and the pool. It makes sense to me. I wouldn't,
Well, yeah, I mean, there would be, there's a 10 foot concrete pad there before the pool. But, you know, you're at almost a 50% variance into that 35 for almost of the utilities from the looks of one of these sheets in here.
Yeah, one of the first ones showing the
Yeah,
utilities.
I mean, it's
easements.
The lower right corner looks like it's going to be right there at that AEP.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yes. Which, if this was shifted and shoved up 10 feet or better, you know, because there's a little gap there between the end of the house.
And safety issues could be mitigated by some other barriers other than just 10 feet of space.
Well, I don't know what those safety issues would be, but I mean, if there's 10 foot of concrete there or 10 foot of wood deck, you're going to have to come out to steps or the deck or the concrete in some fashion. So I'm not even sure what that would be.
Jeff, is that 35-foot setback, is that standard with all subdivisions?
Not with all subdivisions.
No.
Some are 30, we have some that are 25. We have some that the principal dwelling is at 35 feet and accessory structures can be within 5 feet of the rear yard setback. So it is not standard everywhere.
Ma'am, I know one of the other board members asked the question about the possibility or consideration of rotating the pool and or the pad. Have you considered, or I'm sure you have in one way, but I still need to ask the question from my own mind, because you do have the corner the way that the lot line is down the 168.34 on one side, and then you have the difference on the other, of maybe reducing the concrete pad right up close to the house. And that way you could rotate your pool 25, 30 degrees and actually be more in line to the, to our standards or to our regulations.
I did meet multiple times with the pool company, and we discussed, and they were able to take the pool and move it all around the property. I looked at different shapes, more like a kidney bean shape to kind of tuck it more up in that area. I looked at reducing concrete. Things I take into consideration are, it might sound silly, but size of furniture, and I don't want my kids having to walk around something that they could potentially fall in the pool because they're trying to walk around that piece. We do have a play set in kind of tucked away in that back corner for the children. So it is a movable piece, but it is something that is installed into the ground right now that I would prefer not to move. So having children on the play set too close to the pool, I wouldn't necessarily want to rotate it, and then it would also impede on my structural ideas for the deck that I want to put in. So having a, I guess, more of an aesthetic view of a tiered deck coming down to concrete that I can use for safety reasons, keeping it a little further away from the pool so that we can still enjoy the area around the pool without having to expand the concrete onto like the AEP easement or the utility easement. I didn't necessarily want to put concrete more towards the back end of the house for, we've had some issues with freestanding water back there where our construction company has had to come back and put some drains in place. There is a catch basin in the back. So I don't want soggy water necessarily with a lot of concrete. So that's why I chose to keep the concrete closer to the house.
Right.
And chose that resin-based fiberglass pool to put in for longer lasting, given I'm not, completely sure how the land will do 10, 20 years from now, since we have had some of that freestanding water. So there's a lot of factors I've taken into consideration when choosing the design of this pool and the placement. And I think I've come up with what best fits my backyard. And working with this pool company, they were in agreement, and we tried to tuck it up as close as the company and I were comfortable with to try to at least get it past that build line so that I wasn't asking for, I understand it is a large variance. I didn't want it to become outrageous, and I just wanted to make it what seemed most reasonable for my backyard.
Right. What I was referring to is that corner up there where it says with steps to grade, to the right of that, just under the 11.1.
Mm-hmm.
If that part of that was cut at a 45 off the end, you could actually rotate it possibly a little bit. That would make it a lot more in line. The other thing is, and you brought up an interesting point, with water pooling up in that lower left-hand corner, water can, if those drains don't work properly, you could have some nightmares with your pool.
Yeah, they did come in and place additional drainage in my backyard after we had a small issue with some water back there. So there is additional drainage that goes directly to that catch basin. So that kind of cuts back into that V-shaped corner and drains into that catch basin. And that is something I have taken into consideration as the kind of the downgrade of my yard and where I would want the concrete compared to the insertion of that fiberglass pool.
Any other questions or comments on the first part of this?
Well, you know, I was looking at the deed restrictions and the grade of her backyard, which her deed restrictions, which really isn't us. And it
We
says,
can't,
as
we
far-
can't,
I know.
Rick, we
I
can't
know.
enforce it, so there's no need to,
I know that.
that's up to the
I know
HOA.
that. I
That's
know
up to the
that.
HOA, so that's not part of this. We don't need to discuss it if it's an HOA deed
Okay,
restriction,
okay.
'cause that's not
Okay,
something that
well,
we can enforce.
It just talks about, yeah, the grade.
Right, and that's up to the HOA.
Okay.
And they've already
And-
approved it.
And they've already approved it. Okay,
Correct.
yep. Well,
And this is,
yep.
she said it, so it is on record. It will be part of, I will put it in with the case file, so.
I
we will
was
have this
just kind of
approved.
wondering if they're going to regrade the whole thing, you know, once they get it in. So we're not concerned with grade at all.
No,
That's correct. That would be the county building department or soil and water and the HOA's problem.
Ma'am, on exhibit 3 with your arborvitae's, do you have knowledge of from the edge of the arborvitae's to your concrete?
Are you saying as close, how far away from the concrete they're going to be?
It's a question. How far from the arborvitae's to the concrete?
I plan to place rock around the patio and allowing at least 12 inches from the concrete so that the roots don't impede my concrete placement.
Okay.
I'll probably do 2 feet, just to be sure.
And then to the back side of the arborvitae's, it would be how far towards to your property line?
The arborvitae's will probably end about, I'll probably put some type of, I'm going to continue with a rock placement, and I don't have any plans to make it anything overtly more than aesthetically what looks right. So maybe a foot from the back of the arborvitae's, putting rocks down and then allowing the grass to remain to the back of my property.
How are you going to get back there and mow it?
I'm not quite sure that. Going through the fence and run the lawnmower. I don't. What's
I think the concern is the lower right corner of the pool areas we're looking at
Yeah.
it is sitting on the easement, and that means
Sure.
your arborvitae's will be in that easement. And
Uh-huh.
Jerry, to your question, I assume they're going to come on the right side and come down and around because
Mhm.
there's still, I don't know what, 15 feet to
Mhm.
the easement, I think it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
So there should be plenty of room to get a lawnmower in there.
Yeah, I'm really great with a weed whacker too. So
Not going there.
I cut my lawn very frequently. I'm like a twice a week or kind of gal. And yeah, as you
Well-
can see from the photos, like I'm working on the grass.
Yeah. On the left side, as the pole is positioned, if
Mhm.
I've got my dimensions correct, the arborvitae will almost be in that build line also.
Mhm.
Part of my question and reasoning for asking that question is if you put giant arborvitae's in there, for an example, that grow 2 to
Mhm.
3 feet per year,
Mhm.
granted at maturity, they're going to be 20 to 24 feet tall, but
Mhm.
their width will go in excess of 6, 7 feet.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I've had arborvitae's growing up my entire life around our pool, and my dad was really great with a chainsaw and a trimmer, and I own both. So I'm not thinking that that will be an issue.
Okay. Mr. Beard, is there any comments from the chat room?
I see
No,
nothing.
there's nothing in there.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
At this time, I just really appreciate your time and consideration. And I know this is something my family is really looking forward to and really think it would add value to our lifestyle and be a nice stress relief from all the chaos from the last year. So thank you very much for your time.
Anybody care to make a motion?
I can make one. I move to deny case number VA 20-2104 for the property located at 5255 Loudon Drive, Lewis Center, seeking a variance from the rezoning case of 13-0302 North Farms for the area variance of 18 feet 8 inches of the 35-foot rear setback in the area zoned single family planned residential district, because a large variance that is required, and most of the 7 items in my opinion are not positive it's going against. So that's why I made the motion.
Can you state the reasons so we have that?
I'd have to have the 7 in front of me. Hang on.
They're in the package there.
They're in the packet. too, on
Yeah,
the
I know.
staff report.
I just don't have them in front of me. Sorry.
They're up on the screen now, Kevin. Go.
Oh, thanks.
Right.
The property can yield a return without doing the variance. The variance is very substantial. The character of the neighborhood is not going to be disturbed, so that's a positive one. The variance would adversely affect government. No, it's not going to do that. Property owner can purchase with knowledge. We have to assume that. Yes, I know you weren't educated at the time, but that's the assumption that you've done. Problem can be solved in some other manner. This is one I feel can be done, at least without granting the variance of that size. And the variance preserves the spirit and intent of the zoning requirements and substantial justice. I don't think it would be by granting the variance. Is that what you needed, Rick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
that was great.
Yeah. And then based on that, that would be if there's other members that disagree with that, I would.
Yeah, so I
Take that.
thanks for that. There's a couple in there that, so I think number 5, Kelvin, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions. So they stated in their package that they did not know about the zoning restriction in their package. So we could, I don't disagree with you at all. We could make the assumption that, okay, well, frankly, that's on you. You should have known that. But it states whether they purchased it with knowledge of the zoning restriction. And my understanding is that if there's a discrepancy with that, then the default goes to the property owner. And the property owner says, hey, we didn't know about that. We knew there was a restriction of fence height. We understood that, but we knew we could have a pool. So that's my personal opinion. That's my take on that.
Okay.
So it's not, I really don't want to have a discussion about it, but that's my take on it.
Okay. Well,
so-
I'll second the motion.
Well, let's hold on a second. We need to
Well,
to have the respect of, number one, we have a motion to deny with justification. And we'll need either a second.
well, that's what Rick just
Rick
did.
just said he would second it.
Okay, all right, my mistake. I didn't hear Rick.
Yeah, I mean, he laid out his 7, and I can't say that I disagree with him.
May I ask a question?
Aaron disagrees with number 5, but we were always operating under the premise that you should have known because you should have asked, and that was not an excuse. But so I can't say that I agree with Aaron, but
I think going into the purchase of our property, being that it was a very new construction neighborhood, and the hardship that our property does suffer because of how large our neighborhood, or I'm sorry, our neighbor directly to the left of us, their yard is substantially larger. So taking that into consideration as a hardship on our property. And I guess my question is, is there a way you can explain to me more the 6 and 7? If there is something I can do to change granting of the variance, and then kind of the spirit of intent for me, I feel like I've justified that pretty well. So I would just like a little more information on those 2 points.
Ma'am, I'll back up and I'll address number 5 first. And I say this because I learned this the hard way firsthand as well. And this was pre-2018. I ran into an issue with the developer where I was at, where he said X, Y, and Z verbally. And 4 months after I purchased the property and built a custom build on my home, I got what I would consider some very strong worded nasty grams from the attorney for the HOA. And he point blank said, and I quote, "It's your fault for not studying the HOA deed restrictions that are filed with the county." Now, I realize this is hindsight, but for any futures, I strongly recommend anybody that if they're going to build or buy any kind of property or build, to make sure that they do research and get the deeds and restrictions and easements and conditions that are filed with the appropriate county within the state of Ohio.
And I am asking at this point to maybe see past some of my ignorance with that situation. I have not owned a property where I was able to afford a pool. And I feel like I've worked so hard in the last couple of years and been in such tough situations where I feel like I've earned it. And I just really want what's best for my family. And I think moving forward with a project like this, the benefit truly outweighs whatever risk you guys may see in such a large request. I feel like we have a lot of hardships on this property, given the fence that was already installed, the size of the property. Great things about the property that you can see from the picture that's pulled up is there's nothing behind us. There's no butting up. That was one of the big reasons we chose this property. One, we really love this location. The school district was so important to me for my children. And this area is so popular. It's so challenging to find a single family home with any yard at this point, given what's going on with Evans Farms and given what's going on with the potential for condos being placed in my backyard. The ability to find a yard where I would be able to move forward with this requires a request for a variance. and not knowing is plain ignorance in my mind. I'm not gonna try to talk that up anymore, other than just saying, forgive me for my ignorance and allow me to maybe make an adjustment or some type of continuance where if I have to cut concrete and compromise safety by putting in smaller concrete, because that's what would make the variance request a little smaller, maybe I'm willing to do that. But I think in my mind, having more space up against a deck, up against security cameras and locks and hard covers and all of these things is what works for my family. And I just beg you to see what I see with that situation. I'm not requesting it just because I think it will look good. I'm requesting it because in my mind, this is what it's a benefit that outweighs the risk of what I've designed in my mind.
I highly respect what you're saying, ma'am. I truly do. And I understand the importance and appreciate the importance that you're putting family and safety. I truly do. In regards to, and this is my perspective, in regards to your comment in item number 6 or 7, I think that as the board discussed, if there was some slight modifications, such as bringing it up to cut just one part of that corner and rotating a little bit, that would make it far more in compliance. In my personal eyes, one of the things that is the big thing for me is the physical size of the request.
I don't want to interrupt, but I understand we've talked about very personal single circumstances. There have been pool variances requested. I've watched multiple meetings, so I kind of knew how to present myself. I have kind of a hard time public speaking. So I want to make sure that I can present issues or other variances that have gotten those requests. And I want to make sure that those are seen and it's kind of fair in those instances where we do a 17.5 variance for the house on Impatiens Way. Like that really gave me a positive, like, oh, well, they requested that one. So like maybe I have a chance with this. And I just want that kind of to be taken into consideration, that I feel I have maybe put forth a little more effort to with my safety concerns, in hoping that given, your story on what happened with those kids, like I read that all the time, and that's a huge concern of mine, and has always, walking into all of this, it wasn't about aesthetics, it wasn't about concrete, it wasn't about a deck, it wasn't about utilities, it was all about the safety of my kids and making sure that that's making it known that's what's most important to me. So if it has to be moved a little bit, to me, that's a compromise for safety. So I just want it maybe looked at in a different view with that.
Well, I've tried to explain my thought process in regards to the size of the variance, which it is substantial. And there could be some feasibility that if things were made, changes could be, or alterations or something of that nature that could make it more feasible for the board to approve this. And again, we have to take each case individually. So, other comments from the board?
Jerry, I will state that you just mentioned the feasibility for the board. That's not what number 6 says. It's if the owner's feasibility can do it without a variance. And based on that drawing, I don't believe there is a way that she could design the pool that would not request a variance. That's what it states. It says other than a variance, not the size of variance. The size of variance is under number 2.
And just, again, this is just.
I didn't even
Jeff, you
see
can-
where. I'm sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Jeff, thanks, sir. Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but anything over 25% is going to be considered a substantial variance, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So to get out of the substantial variance piece, we've got to get below 25%. So even if, and I'm not saying it can't be done, that's not what I'm saying at all, but what I'm saying is, moving it 5 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet might get us to, I don't know what it would be. I can't do that. There's no way to do the math, but even if you get to 32%, it's still substantial. It's less substantial, but it's still considered substantial.
Right, and I didn't even see anything in here of what the actual size of this pool is.
Well, the pool is 618 by 34. I don't remember what it is. I don't have the package right in front of me, something along those lines, but the variance is
I didn't.
6%.
It's in the
Yeah, I know that.
description on my HOA request. It's 35 by 16 fiberglass pool.
There you go. Yeah, 16 by 35, right?
16 by 35.
Right.
Yeah, I was just kind of, guessing at that. I didn't see anything, that stated they were having this size pool put in, and, from the contractor or anything. But
Yeah, it's not on the
it's
diagrams.
substantial.
It's in the package somewhere. I read it.
Yeah, no, it's in the
Yeah.
package as
Oh,
she
is it? Yeah.
said, but the
Yeah.
diagrams
I was-
don't show it for us, so we have to find it in other places.
Yeah, I couldn't find it, and that's what I was saying. I looked through
And
it,
Aaron, to
many
go,
times, and-
Aaron, to go back to your 25% request, the substantiality of it, the 25%, it would be allowed to go 8.75 feet into the setback to be at 25%.
To get to 25%, yeah. So,
So
yeah,
you would be back to shoving up that 10-foot concrete pad to the house. As an
Correct.
example.
Okay, any other comments in regards to the 7 items that anybody within the board like to present? Okay, Mr. Beard, we have a motion to deny with a second. If there's no further comments, I'd like to take a vote, please.
All right, just a second.
This is for the first part of it.
I know you guys have stated if you adjust the pool, I mean, is there a number? I know that the request is substantial, but you guys are trying to redesign the pool for her, and I don't believe.
Yeah, I don't
If
think we're
she-
supposed to do that, are we?
I'm gonna say
Well,
that's,
you're not supposed to do
Yeah,
it. But
that's
you've
for them to do.
right, but you also mentioned that if she lessens the size of variance request, that it's a possibility of being approved, but not stating
Well,
what that has to
yeah,
get to.
there's- yeah, well, yeah, I know, but that's why I was saying, this thing was set back off of the house so far, and then it had a 10-foot concrete pad.
well,
And
again,
then she
we're,
wants to put in another 10-foot deck in between. And, it's just, it's at the 50% mark, and the AEP and utility easement line.
Right, and the easements we can't enforce. We can't stop a permit because of
Oh,
an
I know,
easement.
I didn't say that, but
Right.
I can consider things like that, can I?
Right. Well, I mean, we can't. That can't be the deciding factor of not allowing
Well,
something because of an easement.
Was it? Was that a deciding factor?
I'm just saying you're
In
bringing it up as
Calvin's statement?
right. You're bringing
in
that up as a
Calvin's
point.
statement-
I'm just letting you know.
Okay,
facts,
well, I don't
legality of
need to bring
things.
up any points, do I? I
Okay,
mean,
Nope.
Gentlemen, one at a time, please.
Kelvin's the one that made the motion, and I agreed with his point.
Right. You just stated
And
the
now you're
closeness
wanting
to
to
that easement.
redesign. So,
Right.
so do you want to redesign this thing so we can turn around the denial?
No, this is
No, we can't.
What was stated by Kelvin was that the substantial request, if it was lessened, that he would have other consideration, but
Well, if it's
amount was
lessened,
not-
we can always re-review anything. Is that
right.
not
So,
correct?
right. But if
But,
there's an
but I don't
amount,
have to state what it has to be re-reviewed to.
Ma'am, I think what the board is referring to is that we can make a comment in regards to, well, the what's being requested is substantial because it's over 50 feet. And there was a discussion that anything over 25% is considered substantial.
It was near 50% is what he meant to say.
Correct.
50%, not feet, yes.
My apologies. We can make statements like that to let you know what the codes are, but we cannot tell you to redesign to XYZ spec. We try to be very helpful and to give people hints of what can be done. But
Right. From what I understand is if I do redesign it and I remove some of the concrete, it's still going to be a substantial request. So maybe my question is, aside from removing some of the concrete and making the request less substantial, even though it will still be like, that's my confusion is we're trying to use substantial as a point of yes or no, and we're still going to be substantial. So just because we're removing some of the concrete, in my mind, I don't maybe understand how that's going to make it that point change from a yes to a no, or vice versa, as far as the substantiality of the request. So in retrospect of my ideas of what I want for safety, it's still substantial. So if I redesign it and I come back, and maybe you can't say, but what exactly has to happen in a redesign, and other than rotating it, which I have a touch of OCD as being an ICU nurse, and I apologize for that. Having anything not completely parallel will just drive me nuts. And like I said, I went through like the kidney bean design of the pool, and I went through different designs. I spent probably a solid 4 hours on trying to figure out where exactly to position the pool so that the request still sounded reasonable, especially given, some of the other requests that have been done with the substantial variance. So maybe I need a little more direction on what would help make it not substantial, but I don't know if that's possible.
Well, as I
Well, you
said,
know what I thought.
I'm sorry.
I said, well, she knows what I thought originally, just looking at the thing. I thought you could save 10 foot by shoving your concrete right back there and having your wood stoop step out right onto the concrete pad.
Another
I don't want my
suggestion.
kids stepping off the deck into a pool. That's just I don't want.
It's not into the pool,
What a
it's
theory.
onto the concrete. It's onto the 10 foot of concrete you've got on the side of that pool.
Right.
Yeah.
Ma'am, right there where it says wood stoop with steps to grade. And this is from a perspective of trying to help you, if that corner was brought in 4 or 5 feet, that would radically change not only and if you slightly positioned it or angled it a little bit, you would take off a tremendous amount.
Would it still be substantial?
It would nowhere be near as substantial. I mean, you could reduce that 30% just by that corner, and bringing the pool closer to the house by reducing that corner area and bringing it in. That still give you 15 feet from the house, for an example, to the edge of the pool, which is a lot of concrete.
Mhm. Would you allow me to go back to my design company and look at changing some of the concrete?
We cannot quote unquote tell you that, but I will give you a hint that if you request to have this tabled or continued,
Well,
You
it
are-
would depend
We've
on,
already got motions.
right, but she can still
Does that
ask, and
matter?
she can still ask, since it hasn't been voted on. If she asks for it, then you guys can rescind
Okay,
your
The,
motion.
Okay.
the motion, yeah.
There's a difference between the continuation and the tabling.
You're right.
If she wants to continue it to next month, or she can continue it to 2 months to have it redesigned, as long as we have a date and time, which would be one of our regularly scheduled meetings. But
Correct.
if she doesn't know when she would have it back or have it ready, then it would be a tabling that would incur.
Can I just ask like another ignorant question? Is there any way it can be approved tonight?
Personally, ma'am,
My biggest concern, and this is just a personal, is I've taken a lot of time and effort with the company, and I know I've saved a lot of money to put my down payment on to move forward, and I can't do that. And so every day that I push this back and back and back and back, it just pushes back the installation and getting me kind of in that queue. The company I've been working with is great. They could probably put something together and have it ready tomorrow, but then that's another, month of other people getting ahead of me, I guess, so to speak. And again, this is just ignorance in me.
it's not an ignorant question, ma'am, by no means. If you had your pool design ready by Monday, it would still be at the earliest next month.
Right.
At April, or excuse me, my apologies. The third week of May would be the next scheduled meeting. I will tell you that right now there is a motion to deny with a second, with 4 board members here tonight on this. I am strongly leaning against denying it as well, based on the existence of what's been presented. So it's your call.
So you're against it, I guess. Okay.
And Jeff, make sure I've got this right. If she asked for continuance until the 20th of May, we could cancel the vote and grant her the continuance.
Correct. You could resend your motion. You can
Right.
amend your motion.
That would also not incur any other fees. Is that correct, Jeff?
Correct. As long as she sets it to that scheduled meeting or the following scheduled meeting, as long as we have a date set and time,
Okay.
there would be no fee associated with it.
Jeff, the exact date of that is
It'd
May.
be May 20th was the next hearing. So we would request updated materials by the week, May 10th or 11th, around then. So it can be distributed around May 13th. So Cheryl, either act on what's applied for now, and they've already got the motion and the second, or you have to request a continuation or a tabling.
So you said if there's a motion to deny and there's a second, there's only 4 of you. If other 2 approve or deny the denial, I guess is how I'm understanding it.
Mhm.
It would go to the next meeting.
It would not.
No,
It would,
You would have to ask for a continuation to redesign it. What they have on the table right now is to deny the application, so the setback would not be approved. The variance would not be approved for the setback for the pool, as it states.
And there's 4 people.
There's 4 members present tonight.
normally there's 5, so it would take a 3 votes for or against. Since our quorum is a minimum of 3 members, then that would be a 2-to-1 vote. If there's 4 members, it would have to be a 3-to-2 vote for or against.
But if y'all disagree, then it gets tabled or it gets continued.
No, ma'am. If there's 2 votes for and 2 votes against tonight, Mr. Beard, what's the legal?
Somebody could either make a different motion and revote, or if it was 2-2, it could be continued to the next hearing. If you guys were, if it was 2-2 and nobody was changing their votes, you could also go into private deliberations to discuss things too,
Right.
as legal counsel
Best.
say last week or last month. But if it's 2-2 and they're not budging, then it would be continued to the next month, where hopefully we'd have all 5 of our board members present.
I think I'd like to do that.
So you're asking for a continuance to next month?
I'm asking for the other 2 to
Well,
vote.
if they
Okay.
vote, if it goes 3-1, then it'll be denied.
And I already gave you my indications based on the 7 steps or 7 criterias that we have to abide by.
I just don't see how I'm gonna fix these substantial requests. I just don't see how that's gonna be fixed unless I put the house out my back steps. Or I'm sorry, I put the pool out of the steps. Like I just don't mathematically, like it's still gonna be a substantial request.
Right now, you're over 50%. Just on
46.
it's
46.
46, but yeah.
46.
you're almost at 50% now.
But we said anything greater than 25 is substantial.
Yes.
Yes, but there's other things that are involved with the 7 items. So that is a big thing to me, is the size. I feel that there could be other things that could be done to alleviate some of these issues. It's up to you whether you want to do some of that or not.
Jerry, can I ask you a question, Jerry, just to clarify something?
Yeah.
When you were talking about the angle of the pool
Yes.
and taking away, I'm going to draw on here. Are you
Sure.
are you looking at an angle this way? The pool as
No.
this?
Okay.
Are you,
If you were to,
or are you talking about changing the pool this direction?
okay, wipe all that
No.
out, please. Bring your first line through there, starting around the 11 or under, okay. Come down. All right, now go up to the top left to where it's intersection at the 28.9 and the 20 something. Okay, stop. For an example, if that corner area could be dramatically reduced and the pool moved up closer to the house because of where those the wood stoops at with the steps to grade, if that corner could be reduced, you could easily bring your pool up closer to the house and still be 15 feet from your house, for an example. That's number one. Number two, if you did the same thing, you could also bring the pool to the right and do the same thing. So that's just an example of what I feel could be done.
Right. So the pool itself would be somewhere like this.
Well, no, not necessarily. It wouldn't be that much, or nowhere near like that.
Well, that's the angle that you are thinking the pool would go, correct?
It could go that way, or it could go the opposite way. No. Okay, eliminate all that. Okay, you see where it's the 3x3 by 5'1" wood stoop?
Mm-hmm.
Go straight down and go down about halfway and then to the right. So basically, you could take a 90-degree out of that, or you could cut the corner. Like that, yes.
So you would just rotate this part of the pool.
You wouldn't, well, that's one
No.
way of, the other way is if you went.
I think
half
he's just cutting it off and then sliding the pool north
towards the house zone.
towards the house. Yeah.
Right. That would still give you a good 15 feet. And you would have at least 5 foot from the base of the steps to the grade to the pool.
Well, I'm not keeping those steps. That's going to be gone. I will eventually get there with the steps on the other side. And I think talking about placement of furniture, having only 5 feet of concrete isn't adequate in my mind. If this was your pool in your house and you wanted to put concrete around your pool, I don't think anybody would choose such a small amount of concrete.
Okay.
And I still think the variance would be substantial.
Okay, ma'am, number one, I was not aware that those wood stoop was going to be eliminated. Number two.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I said. I think she can gain the most room by moving it up and using the 10 foot that's in there as her first 10 foot of concrete ahead of the pool, and then changing her wood step down from her sliding patio doors to that concrete. You would, instead of coming out and coming down, you would just come out with steps onto the concrete.
Yeah, so.
And then the pool would be right below the house. And it would gain you literally 10 feet in moving the whole assembly straight up. But obviously that's not a good idea.
We're trying to give you some ideas to help you, ma'am?
I think just when you define substantial in all of this, no matter how I move it, given the amount of time I spent designing and putting the concrete and putting the pool where I felt, thank God I was at least not going over the bottom easements. It was very difficult to place the pool where I would still have enough concrete in my mind. And if maybe Jeff could show some of the grading pictures of my backyard, and it would be anything closest to the house would grade better and the concrete would last longer, so that we wouldn't run into having to put concrete at the bottom of the pool. I mean, only putting 3 feet around an entire pool, like, where do you enjoy it? Where do you sit around it? Where do you put a table and chairs? Where do you, in my mind, as a family, enjoy the pool without just being in it, I guess, is my question. Like, how do you design it? You can butt it up against the house all you want, but aesthetically, you want to talk resale? No, I'm not even going to go into that. You want to talk anything, I guess, seeing it in rose-colored glasses as a design factor rather than just a variance factor, I guess, is what I'm asking for y'all to look at.
Well, it's up to you, ma'am, whether you want to talk to the pool builder and see if it's feasible.
There, that's like the best picture. So like it all goes downhill.
But your
And
pool is,
I spent a lot of time talking to them. I guess I feel stuck in both situations now, where I spent a very substantial amount of my time trying to move it. And we took the concrete from the back end. I actually had 8 feet of concrete on the back end, and I moved that up to 3 just to kind of try to shove it all.
And just as an idea, if you did move it up to 10 foot and had the first 10 foot of concrete up by the house before you had the pool, you could put 10 foot of concrete on the backside.
But then it comes into the same view, just coming out the back door into the pool. I wanted the deck to allow for a variance in aesthetics.
I'm just saying, you could put 10 foot of concrete on the back if you wanted a big 10 foot.
Right,
on the back.
it's like a grading thing at that point.
You know, and you're going to have a lot of dirt from the dig out of the pool to kind of use to, you know, grade that whole deal out in the yard. However, they're going to disperse all that ground.
Right.
we're trying to help you with some ideas, ma'am. It's up to you whether you want to ask for a continuous to next month to talk to the pool manufacturer to see if anything can be done. It's the ball's in your court.
I mean, I don't feel like I have a choice. I'm just gonna have to ask for a continuance at this point.
Okay, if you're going to request a continuous, ma'am, all I need to do is have you say, I would like a continuance on
Till May 20.
20th.
until May 20th for VA 2104, and the board will vote on it. This will also help you get other ideas in regards to how you're going to resolve some of the fence issue, which is the second part of this. And I remind you of that only because this is a two-part.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna ask for a continuance until May 20th so that I can take out some concrete.
I will make a motion to accept the request for continuance on VA 2104 until May 20th.
I'll second.
All right. First, Kelvin, do you want to rescind your motion?
Yes. I'll rescind my original motion in favor of the continuance.
We have a motion made by Mr. Miller to accept the continuance request from the applicant until May 20th for variance case VA-21-04, seconded by Mr. Trevs. Those voting, Mr. Trevs,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
all right, the motion carries. Cheryl, we'll just need plans by like the 10th or the 11th of May of updated plans.
And then what do we do about, sorry, go ahead.
No, what's your question?
I was just gonna ask, like, what do we do about the fence? But do we move on?
I mean, we can have the discussion, since it's two-part. I mean, if you want to have the discussion tonight, or if you want to.
I
have it
think
next-
I would like to have the discussion now, just so that I can have more of an idea of, I guess, on what to present by the 20th.
That's good advice.
So the issue is that the fence, township requires a 5-foot fence around a pool. HOA has it set up so that the HOA rules only allow a 4-foot fence. So you could obviously ask the HOA, could I have a 5-foot fence? I do think it's important to note that you went, in my opinion, above and beyond the safety piece, which Mr. Miller brought up earlier, with the hardcover, password protected pool cover, the hard piece over the cover, which is not required. So there's no requirement whatsoever other than you, for protection, extra protection on your part, to have that cover. You could have a 5-foot fence with no cover whatsoever. And since it was brought up before, not that it's our business, but Delaware County, as Jeff mentioned, that cover is approved with no fence around it at all.
Mhm.
So you're asking for a 4-foot fence. So that's 1 foot less than the township requires. And I don't know the percentage of that, Jeff, but it's probably
20%. So
Yes,
20%.
20%.
request.
Or I guess I didn't know that. I thought about it. So 20% is what you're asking for. So just to be clear on that. And we're not talking about there's no specific type of fence that's required. So the shadow box fence that you have, although Orange Township required it to be 5 foot, is an acceptable fence for that.
Mhm.
I guess there weren't questions I had. They were just points I was making.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
One thing, ma'am, whatever you present, if there is anything that needs to be approved by the HOA,
Right.
such as the fencing issue,
Mhm.
please have the HOA acceptance or approval or denial or whatever it may be. And I'm saying that in a positive way. So make sure that is submitted when you provide all your drawings and so on. I'm a pet peeve about it because we are a quasi judicial arm, and we are not allowed to go out and visit sites.
Mhm.
So we have to go by what's presented to us. And
Sure.
that's part of the reason why I was so adamant on some of these issues.
Mhm.
Is because
So do you take into consideration that the HOA did approve it, given the fact that it was a 4-foot fence?
no, I'm saying this as a general statement, because some of the things that, a couple of things, we didn't have the approval thing in our packets.
Okay.
So please just, as good as you are in regards to your safety, and I highly respect that, have all your ducks in a row and I's dotted and T's crossed, I guess is what I'm saying. It will help you. It will help the board make better determinations without having to second guess things. And I'm not saying that we had to second guess certain things in this instance, but we have to have the data. We have to go by the data.
I'm kind of, they allow pools, but yet they don't allow a 5-foot fence that we require. That doesn't make sense either out of the HOA.
Yeah, that's on the HOA though.
So I know, but then again, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand that, well, if they would allow that, why wouldn't they allow the other? Because they go hand in hand in Orange Township. But that's what you run into. The next you start looking at insurance companies or this or that, well, they've got their own set of rules. So
I do want to reiterate as well the hardship on our fence, given that the entire one side was completed prior to us even moving in. So to your point, could I add another fence inside of the fence? If it came down to that, yes. But given the fact that we already had a fence in place, the type of fence we have, the shadow box, and going above and beyond the safety measures, is it adequate enough to not have to put in another fence?
Can I ask you a question, ma'am? Where are you gonna put all the dirt from your pool?
I just brought that up.
Yeah.
She's going to use it to grade.
So you're gonna have your fence
Surely you're
below?
not going to have it all the way. And according to the HOA, which I already brought up, and I'm not allowed to bring it up, obviously, is it talks about that pool cannot crest out of the ground over 12 inches.
Mhm.
Well, with the grade she's got here, I don't see how she's going to alleviate that requirement from HOA without using a whole bunch of that dirt to regrade the backyard. So the closer you get it to the house, the less you're going to have to grade in the end.
Mhm.
And the better compliant you're going to be all the way around with your pool up closer to your house and whatever being,
So can I ask you
further
just for
away
like
from the lot line.
maybe personal experience, would adding concrete maybe to like the opposite, like not the front or back, but sides of the pool, given the fact that they have to grade it anyway? Because obviously I've made it known that I want like enough concrete around to be able to put stuff on.
No, you can have concrete, from what I understand. Yeah, the concrete doesn't come into play. It's
There's no-
actually
Like the back end of it, if I were to.
No, you could concrete it all the way to the fence if you want.
But I really don't have to worry about mowing.
Right, exactly. You could concrete the whole backyard.
Ma'am, that's what we're trying to tell you. We're trying to
Right.
give you little bits of advice.
And I think that's
Yeah,
like
I mean-
coming back with my design, where do I
Yeah.
put that concrete? Do I put it on the back end? Do you suggest
Well,
putting
you
it?
could.
Do you have to have the concrete? You said a deck. I've seen many a pool that had a deck along one side and then
Mhm.
you had a step down with a lock gate to get down to the deck area or the pool area. You might want to think about incorporating the deck in the pool design together. It may alleviate some of your issues. That you don't have to have the concrete there. You can still have all the concrete you want, but it gets you a little bit closer to an integrated design, which I think I've seen and heard you talk
Yeah.
about.
Mhm.
And that's why I suggested just moving the concrete up there, because most of the ones that I've seen have concrete around them. I mean, that's kind of the typical.
Yep.
Yep.
And you
And
think how much
then
more-
you'd have you'd have your 10 foot up front that you could use. Then you'd have your pool, And then you could put 10 foot on the back and you could put 10 foot on the sides if you wanted. I mean, 10 foot
Just
all the way
figure
around it.
how much more room you're gonna have on furniture towards the fence side. Got a smile out of you. I'd rather see a smile on you than a frown.
I have another suggestion because I couldn't quite picture it. I would like, if you can, I'd like to see the pool, the arborvitae, the stones around like you wanted to do, and how you would, I mean, you can't surround it with arborvitae, but you've got an entrance somewhere. How was that planned? What, give us the entire look, because that makes a difference. The
Well,
concrete
that
and the
would give her more room
arborvitae.
for that too.
Yeah,
Moving it
but-
forward 10 foot, you'd have a lot more room for all those arborvitaes coming across the back.
well, and what the spacing on the arborvitae is, because you could create a pretty good hedge with those.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, that's what a lot of people use them for screening.
Well, not only screening, but fencing, quite honestly.
Well, that's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I just run into like, I'm not a computer person. I don't know how to like do,
Ma'am, your
God.
pool do that.
I'm
No, they
sorry.
can-
The pool company in the layout that they're gonna provide, they should be providing that for you.
Mhm.
They wanna sell a pool, they'll do some of that layout and design work for you. Yeah, the alternative is, if you do have a drawing, and if they don't have the time to put in the arborvitaes, go by Hobby Lobby and just get a little stamp. Hey, the stamp.
You don't want to send me to Hobby Lobby.
Honestly, you can draw it in yourself if you look at,
Yeah,
What
no, I
the-
mean, I thought about trying to do something, I guess, along those lines.
it
so.
doesn't have to be a professional drawing to give us the idea that you're trying to achieve.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
And Chair, and their point is for the pools, for the setbacks, we look at the distance to the pool itself, not to the concrete
Right.
around.
Right.
It's good.
I think I fixate on that substantial variance is like, if that's a key point in it, moving it up.
Think of the
a little
dig.
better, but it's still substantial. So how do you kind of justify
But
one
your
being more substantial than the other?
your pool is 8 feet by 35,
35 by 16.
16.
16. So I knew I had one of them wrong. So
Yeah. So, yeah.
if you move it,
That's what I always say. You
Yeah.
move it, she's moving the dig line up 10 feet.
if she can go that way. So those are my suggestions.
Mhm.
Thank you, Cheryl. I hope we can get this worked out for you.
Me too. So what do we do about the fence? Is that like, do we table that with?
Well, we can table that as well because it's under the same,
Continuance.
yeah.
If hypothetically, if y'all were to win on, like, say, yes, the 4-foot fence is fine for tonight. If, again, hypothetically, it were to be denied, would I be able to come back with the redesign with a 5-foot fence, or would that be like how do I do that?
That's
Okay, so I'll answer that one for you. So if it gets denied and you comply with a 5-foot fence, you're meeting the zoning code. So there wouldn't be no request for a variance. That would solve
Okay.
it. You won't have to seek anything with that.
Okay.
Now, if it got denied, I'm sure the board would like to see where you're going to have that 5-foot fence and a picture of the 5-foot fence, but they don't have to see that. That would be up to the permit
Okay.
side of that. That'd be go through the zoning.
Okay.
So if it got denied, you would just have to comply with the 5-foot fence. So, and if the board wishes to make a motion or go with the fence
Well,
part
I don't
of
think
this,
you
they
should do
can,
that
or
until you have a pool that's gonna require that.
I agree.
Why would you do that?
Cheryl, we're letting you get your ducks in a row.
Okay.
So
And like to come back and not have to put the fence in the design would be nice, but if you would prefer to see that, I guess is my question, like, should I incorporate it into,
I think that might be another thing that we should take into private session with the attorney too and get his thoughts on it.
well, I mean, if the fence that you're going to incorporate would be a 5-foot fence, then
it doesn't matter, right?
yeah. So if you want the variance request for the fence, then you would stick with this request.
Yeah.
And it would be
I
better
don't,
to have
I guess
it
I don't
after.
understand like how that request would change for the next meeting, so.
Yeah,
Just wanted-
this one won't, but if
Right.
you can't have a pool, then there's no point in approving that request for that fence.
Okay,
Because that fence would go with the pool. So
heard.
do we need to include it in our continuance?
No,
yeah,
it's
since we just
all
stated
together.
since we just
It's
stated the
21
continuance would be
and
that application, that both of those variance requests would be under
Okay,
that.
cool. I just wanted to make sure we were okay and she was all right.
It's all included in VA-21-04.
Excellent.
You got some homework, Cheryl, but I hope it'll just stay positive. That's all we have for you, Cheryl.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Okay, moving right along. The next item is for the minutes for March 18th, 2021.
What'd you find, Kelvin?
I started reading them and then life happened and I didn't get them all read. So I found nothing.
Okay, well, I hate to be the ones of bad news, but I got several things.
Excellent.
Make
Page
sure you
one,
go slow so I can keep up with you.
okay, page 1 of 9.
Okay.
Line 15. Pavilion can be spelled 2 different ways. They also could have 2 different meanings. Line 21, it's Graphic Way, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035. There should be a space after 43035 and having parcel number. On page 2, line 87, and I don't know if I'm being nitpicky, but their response is off-street parking will be provided, or it can be, their response is that off-street parking will be provided. You can go either way.
I probably said that way, so
Okay.
that'd be my broken English, and
That's okay, I just want to be clear. Line 91 of page 2 of 9 is drawing is provided and includes, and forgot the S, includes the required trash receptacles. See exhibit. Skipping to page 4 of 9, line 195, saying I'm leaning either way what's presented to us. It should be on what's presented to us, or of what's presented to us. There's just one on there. A couple of things on page, on VA CU 2028. Line 6, again, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035 space. On line 15, after the 88 square feet, it should be capital THE instead of just he square foot. On line 22, percentage of change not from what they wanted, comma, or what they wanted, and that there's the word to in there, or wanted to. But and if it's wanted to, then it's TOO, but that's what it's allowed. On page 2 of 6, line 66, excuse me, 65. And we did move it to 22. There should be the 22-foot symbol there. And on line 66, based on some math, traveling on 23 between 45 and 55. Wait a minute, that's correct. My mistake. Line 101. In the middle of the sentence, this is something that we're willing, and it were is WE''RE.
Probably should just make it we are.
Or we are.
Yeah.
That's all I have. That's probably the most I've ever had.
Anybody else have anything?
I do not.
Nope.
Oh, I had one other thing. Sorry. On the CU 2102, on page 4 of 9, line 194, we can only approve or disapprove and then there was 2 commas.
If there's no other comments, I don't have any comments.
Mr. Shipley,
I have
Mr.
nothing.
Poster,
Nothing.
Nope.
very good.
Need a motion to accept those as amended.
So moved.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Need a second.
I'll second his motion.
Motion by Mr. Oster to approve the minutes from March 18th as amended. Second by Mr. Krebs. Those voting, Mr. Krebs,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley.
Yes.
That is all that I have on the agenda for tonight. Our next meeting will be May 20th. We'll have 3 cases on that evening.
Okay. Mr. Beard, can you take us off Facebook, please?